Hello and welcome to Worthy and United. I am the founder, Jessica Viera, and together with Monique Viera, we are Worthy and United. We are bringing you a women's and men's mental health awareness, healing, and empowerment movement. Through the power of storytelling, facilitation, and teaching, we open up unfiltered conversations on topics associated with traumatic events in a way that you have never experienced before.
We take you through and help you understand that it is our experiences that have formed our behaviours, patterns, conditioning, and perceptions in our adulthood. The outcome of understanding and healing these experiences we are holding on to has the ability to have a direct response to the relationships we have in our lives, our careers, our family union, our opportunities, and family lineage. When we reveal these experiences we have encountered in our lives that have created the trauma in our body and mind, we open a gateway to healing these moments in our life and reach a higher level of consciousness, which allows us to live a life of inner freedom, love, abundance, joy, happiness, and enlightenment within ourselves.
Our mission is to break generational curses, shift old paradigm beliefs, and bring awareness to real life, personal, and circumstantial traumatic experiences. My message to you is, you are born worthy, and nothing has ever changed. Now let's begin.
Welcome to the Worthy and United podcast. On today's episode, we have Berenice Tan. Ber is a Breathwork Teacher Trainer, speaker, coach, NLP practitioner, hypnotherapist, sound healer L2, and a Reiki L2 Therapist. Ber turned childhood trauma into a global mission to empower coaches to heal their communities at scale. She works with established coaches and visionaries to use breath as a vehicle to scale down time, energy, and effort while leveling up their authentic expression and amplifying their impact. Since learning from 40 meditation and breathwork experts worldwide and building 2 six-figure businesses, Ber has been featured on Channel 7 News, Destination Happiness, Triple M, as well as various national newspapers, magazines, and online media, Concrete Playground, Urban Jungle, and more. Ber's unquenchable thirst for creating a conscious, empowered world through meditation and breathwork has led her to work with global tech companies like CSG, Hewlett-Packard, and some of New York's most successful CEOs. Her Australian clients include the University of Swinburne, University of Queensland, Lorna Jane Australia, Wesley Mission Hospital, and more. Over 12 months, she built a national phenomenon, Calmly, and founded Soulside Breathwork Facilitator Training for the modern world. She's on a mission to empower everyone she meets to connect with their inner wisdom, harness their power, and live the life they were born to live. We welcome Ber into this space to share her story. Hello, beautiful Ber. It is so good to have you on the couch with us today.
Thank you. And what a couch.
I know, isn't it beautiful?
It's such an honor to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. You are an amazing woman who I feel like has been all around the world to acquire your knowledge, your wisdom, your expertise. You're an amazing business owner, an amazing facilitator, and you are just a walking testimony of your story. And I just can't wait to dive into this today. So thank you for being here, firstly. And I would just love to know, and the audience would love to know, who is Ber and what does she do?
Who is Ber and what does she do?
Yes.
What a question. I'm a hip hop dancer.
I love it. Yes.
Avid Disney singer. Deeply committed to service, growth, compassion, connection, wholeness. And I'm on the 3D scale, I'm a breathwork teacher trainer. Sound healer, Reiki healer, a certified NLP Master Practitioner, hypnotist, and I believe that's all my qualifications.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes, yeah. And I always say, and I had this process at my last retreat that I ran, where we sat opposite each other, and for 30 minutes you have to say, who are you? And that's all you can say, and the person just has to answer. And I was answering, and it's like, who are you? I'm like, Breathwork Teacher Trainer, who are you? Coach, who are you? Entrepreneur, who are you? All these identities and these labels kept coming. And then eventually I just melted and I just started crying. And I was like, I'm just a huge heart.
Oh, wow.
And I just walk around as this huge heart, and I'm just trying to figure out how to give people more love and how to receive more love. And I feel like at my fundamental core, that's what I am. I'm this huge heart that just wanders around, like throwing rainbows at people, hoping that one's going to land.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's such a big question, right? It's such a big question. I love asking, who are you? And just hearing what comes through for people when you ask that question.
Yeah.
And, you know, I would love to know, you're so qualified, and you're doing amazing work in the world with so many people on a global scale. And I know that this hasn't always been your life. Like, where did this journey for you to begin? Like, I'd love to go back to the start. Like, what is the journey to date that you've been on?
I love it. I love your questions. I loved the who are you question, because I really dropped into that, and I answered in a way that I've never answered before. And then this question as well, it's like, where did it begin? I'm like, the beginning. Okay. Began with
no rush.
Family of 5. My dad left when I was around 1 or 2. I don't remember. And then Mum raised us until I was about 12. My brother was 14. My sister was 14, brother's 17. And then during that time, she married again, married to my stepfather. And he was sexually abusive, only to me. And I always say, like, that was the biggest gift that keeps on giving throughout my whole entire life. Because it allowed me to experience the most profound contrast to what life actually really is and what it can be. And so when I was around 8 to 10 is when I was being sexually abused. And then after that, my mum was going through a lot. She had, I feel like, it's not diagnosed back then, but I feel like she had depression. So she ended up leaving my stepdad and flew to America, to the US, to marry another man.
Wow.
And then we were given I don't know how long, but I remember sitting on my bed, and my mum comes into my room and she just jumps on the bed and she's like, I'm going to move to America and you're going to go live with your dad in Australia. And I was like, what? Well, truth be told, wait, is this a swearing interview?
No. Oh, yeah, yes, you can swear. If you want to swear, you can let it rip. For all those listening, well, there may be swearing in this episode. You can swear. Just be you.
Okay, good. Yes. So my little 12-year-old self remembers sitting on the bed and going, the fuck? Like, Mum is just going to suddenly, I was like, what? And then I also had this echo come through me, and it was like, she's going to be really happy. And so I remember those moments so clearly. And then we got shipped off to Australia to live with my dad. And then he raised us. And during that time period, that's when I was slowly numbing out. So I had, so I started to run a lot. To just try and run away all the feelings. I remember crying for like 5 days. And then I remember making this decision and being like, this isn't getting us anywhere. So I just stopped crying. And then I started running instead. And I ran and ran and ran. And I remember Googling anorexia because I was curious. And I think in some ways I just wanted it to happen. For there to be an excuse for why I was feeling the way I was feeling and not being able to understand it.
Yes.
Right. And so then I flirted with a lot of eating disorders, like binge eating, got more and more socially anxious until I was like 15. And I remember just thinking like, I don't know what's happening to me. Like, what is that? Like, I used to, like, the feeling was like, I used to feel so free. I used to just, people would banter with me and I would banter back. I used to be able to like play these games and be weird and be like creative and myself. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. I can't figure this out. I'd sit in groups of friends and I used to love being the center of attention and just telling everyone the story and watching their faces and just delivering this like epic peak and like everyone feels great after. And that slowly was disappearing. And I just, again, I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. Something's wrong. And so then all throughout my teenagehood up until I was in my early 20s, again, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And then I eventually got to the point where I was boarding a plane and I remember thinking as I was getting on the plane, like, oh, fuck, I hope this plane goes down.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what? And then I sat on the plane and I just cried and cried.
Wow.
Yeah. It was strange. That was my experience. It wasn't like horrible. It wasn't depressing. It wasn't scary. It was strange.
Had you thought any thoughts prior to that? Were there like behaviors and stuff that you weren't sure of?
There were like really, really like subtle moments when it just felt like I don't want to be here. But I wasn't self-aware enough at that point to know what that meant other than laughing it off. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I was like the queen. I was like the queen of smiling, laughing,
Yeah.
always just like laughing it off. And I think that is how I got through it, was
A mask.
yeah. And like allowing myself to heal others, to bypass my healing, but at the same time to sustain me so that I could eventually have enough courage to heal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so after that experience, I was like, you got to do something. It was like, you cannot stay the same. If you do, you will no longer care about changing. And that is worse. That is hell. And so that was when I discovered meditation. Went to a 10-day Vipassana retreat. And since then I've gone every single year.
Wow.
Because it's just, something else. And it was like the second day. And I'm like, oh, my back's getting really strong. Yay. And then it wasn't until like the 6th, somewhere between the 6th and the 8th day, where I'm sitting behind this beautiful, like super spiritual woman with like dreads and like the hippie pants. And she's like talking to the teacher at the end of the day. So for those watching, the retreat is 10 hours a day of meditation.
Wow.
You get up at 4 a.m.
Wow.
Yeah. And then you eat at like 8 a.m. and 12, and then you don't eat after that. And there's no talking, no writing, no journaling, no exercise, no nothing. And it's, you cannot escape yourself.
Yes.
You know? And so by the 6th or 8th day, I was like, cool, I don't really feel like much is happening. This beautiful woman in front of me sharing, she's like, I'm just like, feel like I can't stop crying and I feel like I'm going to be sick. And I was like, wow, what a fucking hippie. Straight up.
It's so funny. Oh my gosh, I'm dying to know what happened next.
And this is where it was wild, right? And I think this is why I was such a massive convert to the way, because I could never have guessed that this now was my life. It was going to be my life. So I went back to my room, still just being like, back so strong. And then I started thinking about her question, and I started thinking, oh, I wonder if that's going to happen. Got to there. Wonder if it's going to happen. And then just like, you know, in movies, like you hear like a roar in the background and you know something's going to happen. It was like that, but there was no sound. And it's like this roaring and over between my ears, like nothing I've ever heard, and like a feeling in my body that I've never felt before. And I'm just like in a vacuum and thrown into my body. And I'm like 12 years old, and then I'm just going through all my memories and experiencing them one by one with crystal clarity. And it was heaven.
Yeah.
It was bliss, like to experience life when I had forgotten what it felt like to be alive. And they said, this is what they say in The Body Keeps Score. They say that the way to heal trauma is to become fully alive and present in the moment, which is why breath is so powerful for that.
Yeah, wow.
Because those people have lost the capacity to live in that moment.
Yes.
And I felt like in that moment, my life was restored.
Wow.
And I was like crying and I was laughing and I was like, yeah, it was insane. Oh.
Wow. And this was in the meditation? This was in the meditation?
Oh no, this was
by yourself. Wow.
Finally, yeah.
Wow. And what did you do with that? Like from there, like that's such a beautiful, amazing, huge opening and just pivoting moment of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say this as well, because people have heard my story about Vipassana before.
Yes.
And they go in with an expectation.
Yes.
And the key to me having my experience was that I had zero expectation.
Yes.
I was like, do what you will, God. I surrender.
Yes.
I've tried everything, and so I surrender fully. And so my experience in Vipassana was very unique. A lot of people go in and they have a completely different experience. But from that point, I was like, I've got this connection to self restored. I need to, my mission was ignited. I was like, I need to go and connect people because all of my mental health is done. Like I know what it is now. It's just disconnection to self.
Yes.
So then that's when I started trying to get people to go to meditation more. And it really did not take, because 10 hours a day for 10 days is
a lot,
not sustainable for many people.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. So I quit my primary school teaching job and then flew to America, and I went and found all the commercial meditation studios in America. So there's things like Unplug, The Den, Womb Room, all these beautiful places where they've really modernized meditation and breathwork. So I went there, did about 600 classes in 3 months. I was doing 5 to 6 classes a day.
Wow.
Like I would sit in these waiting rooms with all the clients. I never shared this part of the story, but I was sitting in waiting rooms with all the clients and I would just interview everyone.
Wow.
I was like, hey, how did you feel when you came in? And they'd be like, oh, okay, hi. And I'd be like, so like, you know, what led you to come here? And like, how do you feel now that you're leaving?
Wow.
And yeah, and I just did that shit, and I recorded all this data of all these people because I was like, I'm going to find out exactly what they come in here with and how I can serve them and how and how we can condense everything into the smallest possible amount of time and energy to give them the most impact and the most change and the most connection to self. And that's when breathwork came in. So breathwork was like classes were just selling out. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I went in.
Can I ask before you go on, when you were doing all of this, were you doing it with the intention to learn more or doing it to keep healing yourself in the same process?
At that point, I was just ready to give.
Yeah.
It's impossible to be on the journey of wanting to give without doing the work yourself, as you know.
Huge key part, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So my intention was, I'm here to give.
Yes.
To learn to give. And healing just occurred as a byproduct.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Yes. Yeah. Continue.
Beautiful. And so I'm in this class in breathwork. And I remember the first time I did it, it was really, really hard. And I remember just thinking, this is so much harder than Vipassana. Why does anyone do this? And it's, so for the audience watching, it's a type of breathwork where you breathe in and out of the mouth only with no pause at the bottom or top. So you're over-oxygenating your body to reduce your carbon dioxide so that you can create a shift in consciousness, which allows you to tap into samadhi, which is going beyond the mind and accessing your true self. And the first time I did it, I was like, no. And then I got the calling again to go, and so I followed the calling. I was in class, and then boom, 14 minutes in, it's like my whole everything shifted. My body was like like an over tight string. It was just like, and then my heart it opened and was pinned to the floor, and I was crying and crying, and I was laughing and laughing, and I had that clarity and that feeling again of being truly alive in my body and not having even been aware that I had lost it to some extent since that moment.
And what was showing up for you during that, because you had already done meditation and you had already gone through a similar moment, and now you're going through it again years later.
So this was totally different. It wasn't my childhood trauma this time. This time it was my relationship trauma.
Wow.
Yeah. So I hadn't even shared that post with
Yeah.
Partner. I did end it with my fiance at the time.
Wow.
First
Yeah.
guy that I lost my virginity to, been together 7 years.
Yeah, wow.
Ended a relationship. And then after, when I went into the breathwork, that's what I was releasing.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And after that moment, it was clear.
Yeah.
I sat up, covered in snot, like couldn't really see because my eyes are so swollen. And I was so happy. I was like overjoyed because I knew I've got the modality now. This is going to change so many people's lives because it's fast, it's easy. You don't need to know how it works in order for it to work. 15 minutes.
Wow.
And you go beyond your mind and you go into your heart.
Yeah. And why is that? Why was that so important for you?
Okay, Worthy and United fam, we have reached a quick intermission. Monique and I are coming back with an absolute bang. We are so excited to announce the return of the Find Your Inner Power events. Oh, we have not held an event since we collaborated with Lululemon in Sydney for Women's International Day back in March 2020. Can you believe it has been this long since our last event? We are itching to get back into the event space. Since then, we have rebranded, renamed the company to align with both men and women, and calibrated more deeply with our mission and purpose. We proudly present you the Born Worthy event, which will be held November 27th on the Gold Coast at Braeside Estate. This event is heavily focused on healing the inner child and stepping into womanhood. The message is this: we are all born into this world worthy, whole as one in our purest and innocent form. It is our experiences, emotions, and trauma that change our beliefs and perceptions about what our true potential identity is. This event will be hosted by Monique Viera alongside 4 incredible, powerful speakers, including myself, Jessica Viera, where we will reveal unfiltered, real-life stories alongside professional teachings from mentors, educators, professionals, and facilitators. Born Worthy will be a mega charity event where we will be raising money for Diamond Women Australia, a non-for-profit organisation. First release tickets will be available mid-October. There will be 80 tickets available to attend live, and virtual tickets will also be available for those of you that are located interstate or internationally. If you feel aligned to be a part of this event, please head to the show notes where you will find www.worthyandunited.com to secure your place with us. We are so excited. It's going to be a profound and extraordinary day together. Now let's get back into the episode.
Like, do you know why, like, you know, breath work out of all the ceremonies, like why is that one the thing that has been for you and for the people that you've worked with? Because you've worked with heaps of people now, and now you're teaching other people how to do the same work. Like why breath work? Why that one out of all things?
I'm going to answer it from 2 places.
Yes.
One from my heart and one from my head.
Yes, I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Go, shoot.
Okay, my heart says there is nothing else.
Yeah.
My soul cannot do anything else. From my earliest memories are, how can I make everybody around me feel great? And I remember I'd write lists like next to my bed, and it would be like, if someone's mean to you, just remember they're not having a good day.
Oh,
Like, this is just like who I was. And when I found breathwork, I was like, I can give this to everyone. Like all my friends, all my family, all my community.
yes.
And everyone's going to get it. Even if they don't get it straight away, it will always be effective because it's faster than meditation.
Yes. Yeah.
And then from my head, the answer is, okay, so why breathwork? Because it works on 2 levels. In society, we see a split between medical science and spiritual science.
Yes.
And breathwork crosses and transcends that.
It does, doesn't it?
It totally does.
Yes.
Because it's both. because you can go top down, which is the medical community, like most of the time. Not, you know, I have so much respect for the medical community, and a lot of the methods they use are let's treat the symptoms.
Yes.
And with breathwork, you can do that.
Yes.
If you have anxiety, you just change your breath to a inhale for 4 and an out for 6.
Yeah.
And you immediately activate your parasympathetic nervous system and change your state. Great. So top down, totally effective. But then for the really, really chronic stuff, right, you have to go bottom up. Otherwise, you're only ever half alive.
Yeah.
Half. From top to the middle. Right. But if you use the breath work from bottom up, well, we can actually rewire your unconscious thought patterns, the trauma that's been held in your somatic body, and create integration between the top and the bottom. And so the way I can explain that is when you over-oxygenate through specific kinds of breath work, you deactivate the prefrontal cortex, and this is the thinking part of your brain. So there's a brain stem, let's say, survival brain, sleep, food, sex, hunger, and then this is a massive generalization, FYI.
Yes.
That's okay. And then there's the mammalian part, which is like emotions, which is why elephants can cry when their children die and dogs feel really sad and really happy, right? Animals, mammals have emotions. But then there's like the final layer, the neocortex, and this is the human part, which is like thinking and analyzing, judging and evaluating, thinking about the future / anxiety, thinking about the past / depression, right? And so when we deactivate all that, we deactivate all the stories, all the illusions, and you are left with nothing but your emotion, the truth. What are you actually sensing in your body without any suppression at all? And it can erupt through you and actually be cleansed and purged from your nervous system.
Yeah.
And you can work not only that, but if we're going to get really esoteric, you can go into the spiritual center, because you're activating like the deepest part of your brain. And what is that part? It's like the part that is responsible for your heartbeat, for your for lymph fluid being released in your system, for your blinking. And all of that is an unconscious intelligence that we cannot actually explain. We can kind of guess at, and like science is like, yeah, we know like 10% of the brain, how it works. But ultimately, that is deeply, deeply unconscious, and it is automated. And that means it's genetically passed down.
Yes.
Based on nature. And that means if you look at our parents and our parents' parents and our parents' 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 parents, then ultimately we're going to end up at the first organism.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The first original seat of intelligence. And so what are you tapping into when you deactivate your prefrontal cortex? You're tapping into your entire ancestral line.
Huge. Yes. I feel like, although you said it's a logical thing, I also feel like that this is a very big heart thing.
It totally is. I just went back.
It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you're saying is the doing breath work can actually help you dive into your unconscious mind, bypass your consciousness, access the unconscious mind, which stores everything, our whole life, and genetically old paradigms, and you're tapping into that and healing those, closing loops and healing them and releasing emotion.
Yes. And then
in literally 15 minutes.
Yes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
This is amazing.
It is insane. It is absolutely
incredible.
Insane. Yes.
And how has this changed your life on an emotional level? And if there was like for those of the audience that has never heard of breathwork before, because I feel like it is a very big booming thing at the moment. And even my auntie was like, "What?" We were telling her yesterday. She was like, well, "What the hell?"
Dad
sounds okay.
My dad still doesn't know what it is.
I know.
He's like, "What is this stuff?" I'm like,
"You're just breathing."
Just my life's work.
Yeah. And for those that have maybe heard of it but unsure, like what, I'd love if you could share like how it has actually changed you emotionally, like physically, like everything. And then for those that are curious or not quite yet know what it is, like how could you give them awareness around it and encourage them to maybe explore it?
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah. Two big questions. I should have asked them separately. But anyways.
No, I love this.
Oh, okay, amazing.
Okay. So I'm going to speak to different levels of consciousness for people listening on this call.
Yes.
So We've got the coaches, facilitators, those who've been in the work for ages, so 12 months or more, between 12 months and above. How it changed my life with respect to integrating breathwork into a modality in my toolkit is that it created way more space for me to have an impact without costing me any more time, energy, and effort.
Huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was able to give all my clients the tools, like recordings, replays, access to being able to heal themselves through me as a channel so that they could go and achieve their own results without me having to give them all that time and energy. I have people always arriving in my inbox, reaching out to me just saying like, thank you, I've been listening to you for 6 months. And I'm like, what? Like, it's actually, it's the highest honor. Like, I'll have people.
Amazing.
Yeah, another woman dropped into my Instagram the other day and she was like, I've been listening to your content every single day and it got me through coronavirus. And she's like from Canada. And I'm like, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so in terms of like my personal experience of that is like my business is scaled up massively. And then also the deep knowing that every single day there are people out there whose lives are being changed and I'm literally doing nothing.
Yeah.
That is like so deeply fulfilling and allows me to be more present in my everyday life. Because I'm like, and I'll be completely transparent. It's like what led me to this point on so many levels was this deep fear that I was not enough.
Yeah.
And that I was not doing enough. And now it's like, I always know that I'm doing enough.
Yeah.
Because it's just always happening without me even knowing. And so there's that piece there for that community. Second piece for the people who are just starting, who are like, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. How it changed my life was I don't know if you can tell from like the stories that I've told you, but I've always been in my head. Like very, very heady. And it was a response to trauma and needing to feel safe.
Yes.
Right? Like when those events occurred in my childhood, I was too young to understand what was actually occurring. So I had to figure it out. My brain went online.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know how to stop it. I need to figure out how to stop it. Like, please stop. So we've got to think of all the different ways and notice every single sensation and shift in someone's physiology so that I can predict that when this is going to happen, so it never happens again.
Trying to control everything. Yeah.
And so I was very, very heady. And so what breathwork allowed for me was this like free, fast, sovereign tool that could connect me to my heart. In 15 minutes or less. And then what that allowed for me in my relationships was instead of thinking that I had to feel a certain way and that people had done things to me, I created a level of awareness around, oh wow, no, I can change my state at any time. And this is all because I'm choosing it. And so in my relationships, like they are so deeply empowering and free right now because,
amazing.
Because I know, I'm like, oh, even when someone comes and apologizes to me, I'm like, what are you apologizing for? Like I'm choosing my experience. So thank you. And and instead of projecting onto me that you've hurt me, maybe you could acknowledge that I'm completely aware of my experience and I get to choose it. And so I feel like, for my relationships, like it's like whole new level.
Wow.
Anything else personally? Exercise. Exercise is improved. So breathlessness is caused by overbreathing. And this is something that we see massively in modern society.
Yes.
And how you can retrain that is really simple. You just tuck your tongue into the roof of your mouth and then lightly clench your teeth and keep your mouth closed when you breathe and breathe in and out through the nose. And there's this myth going around that if you breathe deep, then you're actually creating more oxygen and circulation in your body, when the truth is when you exhale longer, you're activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which means going into rest and digest. And your blood has roughly a 96 to 100% saturation of oxygen anyway. So breathing deeper isn't actually going to increase your circulation. What will increase it is retaining more carbon dioxide, which is to slow down your exhale and to take normal breaths into the belly. And so that has like created massive changes in my exercise.
Wow.
Like I can sprint up hills.
Wow.
And I get to the top.
I'm thinking about when am I going to try this?
Oh my God, yes, I can send you the exercise. It's so simple and it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sprint up hills and I just get to the top and I'm like I might be a little bit breathless, but like 3 breaths later, I'm like, heart rate's back to normal. And the whole experience is just pleasurable. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does, absolutely. It does.
Okay.
It does. It does. And if there was any final piece of, value, if there was one message that you could share with the world today.
Don't do this to me.
All right. You got 1 hour to live. What is the final piece?
The final message. 1 hour to live. I'm going to put myself in that scenario. It's that people think that there is a right way to do this work, and that's what prevents them from doing it.
Oh, that's good.
All it takes is a minute a day to start. And it's as simple as placing the tongue on the roof of your mouth, relaxing your jaw, keeping your mouth closed when you breathe, and having that awareness. That's the start. When you've got that, then you can progress. I see people come to this journey and they have to get it perfect and get it right. And if they don't, then what's the point? I should just go watch Netflix and smoke weed or something, right? And that's the all or nothing mentality. And with this work, I say you do the minimal amount that you can every day, and then you just build it up if you want, and it's a bonus. And if you're anything like me, not you specifically, addressing the audience, but in the past, I got in these loops of, it's not working. And I love to say, it is not true faith, and it is not true surrender until you truly believe it is not working, and you still do it. And so that's it. If you ever feel like it's not working, if you ever feel like you're not doing it right, if you ever feel like it's imperfect, then you're on the right path and you're in the right place at the right time.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Bert. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your story. Thank you so much for being here today. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I just know the audience is going to love everything that you had to give today.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Done.
Woo!
And that concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for leaning in. I hope that the transmission of this message lands well on your heart. I hope that it pours through your spirit, and I hope that it is everything that you needed today in this moment. Remember, you were born worthy and nothing has ever changed. We love you, and we'll see you in the next episode.